morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Andrea Tooley. I'm an ophthalmologist in Rochester, Minnesota, and I treat patients with thyroid eye disease, or TED.
And I'm Beatriz, also known as B, and I'm a passionate advocate and a patient diagnosed with Graves' disease and thyroid eye disease 5 years ago.
Welcome to the second episode of TED Today, a special daily show we created for the first ever TED Awareness Week. In each episode, you'll find helpful information for people living with or caring for those with thyroid eye disease, also known as Graves' eye disease or Graves' ophthalmopathy. But if you have Graves' disease, it's also important to listen up because up to half of the patients with Graves' disease will develop thyroid eye disease.
As we continue to raise awareness of thyroid eye disease during this first ever TED Awareness Week, today we will take you behind the scenes in the day in a life of a person with thyroid eye disease. Este programa es totalmente en inglés, pero si necesita recursos en español, por favor visite la página que se indica en esta pantalla y ahí encontrará recursos que le puede ayudar.
We have a great lineup of guests and information today, including Cynthia, a fitness instructor who's living with Graves' disease and thyroid eye disease, wellness suggestions from B, Rick, and others living with thyroid eye disease, and suggestions on how to best work from home when you're living with thyroid eye disease.
Without further ado, let's take a look in the life of a patient with thyroid eye disease and their journey.
I knew there was something wrong with me, but no one would listen to me. And I think if it wasn't for my children, I would have just given up. I thought I was dying personally because after 4 months of no sleep and my vision was affected, I was starting to get really bad blurred vision. I mean, my eyes changed dramatically. I think I woke up and looked like a totally different person. I think one morning I woke up and I went to my neighbor's house. I'm like, what's wrong with my eyes? They started to retract and bulge right away. It affects your whole exterior and the way you look and who you are. So it, at the time, felt like the worst time of my life, but at the end, made you go inside and dig, you don't have your exterior anymore. Where's your interior? Are you fixed on the inside? So hence the reason I became a yoga instructor and teach people self-love. I had a yoga teacher tell me, I remember I was super depressed. That's one thing that changed me. And she looked at me and she's like, well, you have that disease, accept it and move on. And I was so pissed off through the whole yoga practice. I was like, I don't want to accept it, because the minute I accept it, I'm claiming I have this disease. But then I got what she meant later on. I can't use that as a vice to feel sorry for myself. So instead of using it as a vice, I just looked at it as living with gratitude. The thing I'd like to share about my disease and my journey is don't give up on yourself. I always said my quote I always found a quote for something. So mine is, with pain comes growth. It's tattooed on my arm too. So I remember that. So I say with pain comes growth. So I think your journey is not in vain. And this is the start of your journey. Have hope and don't give up on yourself.
Now I'd like to welcome another one of my friends, Rick, who also lives with thyroid eye disease. And he and I are going to talk about some of the life hacks or tips that we use when we have to live with this disease. Thank you for being here, Rick.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Well, what are some of your own experiences and some of the tips that you can provide that you have used?
I think as many people can agree, getting outside and getting some fresh air every once in a while makes sense. Debbie and I are avid walkers. We try to walk every day. We try to get around, get the fresh air, and just enjoy nature and enjoy the time that we have together.
And beyond that, what are some of the other things that you do during the day that make your life easier in your home, for example?
This is Clive. I don't know if you... And Clive has been with us throughout this journey. And as I mentioned, he has all of my equipment, my sunglasses, my hat, my eye mask, and anything else that I'm supposed to have with me during the day. He's the first thing I see during the day, he puts a little joy into us because it's obviously hilarious that, someone my age, that, I still have a stuffed animal and a toy that is a friend for us. So this is Clive.
Nice to meet you, Clive. And thank you for being such a helpful partner.
Well, this was a good reminder, when you wake up, when you're early in TED and you don't, you're kind of trying to find your footing still. To see Clive with the hat and the sunglasses not only served as a reminder, but kind of took the edge off all of the seriousness of everything and made us smile. And I think it's very important to start every day with a great sense of humor.
That was so helpful, Rick. Now let's go through some of the suggestions that we've received from other patients. Christine recommends reading inspirational books, doing daily meditations, and also listening to online motivational talks.
Here's one from my wife. Debbie recommends assembling a kit that includes a hat, eye mask, sunglasses, magnifying glass, a flashlight, lots of tissues, and anything else you may need to help with your vision.
Karen recommends keeping eye drops in every room of the house so they're available when and wherever you need them. Laquilla recommends keeping your eyes moist and covering them when you go to sleep.
Linda recommends taking menu planning seriously and suggests buying ingredients that can be safely prepared at home to avoid accidents if you have a vision impairment. For example, buy pre-cut fruit or vegetables or salad kits.
Susie recommends getting a new hairstyle and some great pairs of glasses.
And Ron recommends learning ways to function safely with low vision, such as staying near walls or things that you can lean on, and not driving during periods when your vision just isn't good enough.
Vicky recommends not pushing away family and friends and being willing to accept their love. Don't be afraid to get counseling if you become angry or depressed or unable to cope. It's okay to ask for help. That is a great reminder.
And Wendy recommends scheduling activities and social get-togethers to look forward to, rather than waiting to see if you feel okay and then not doing anything at all.
One final tip that I'd like to share is absolutely critical, and that's to keep track of your symptoms over time, whether it's journaling or using an online tool to keep track on a day-to-day basis how your eyes are feeling. For example, there's a terrific tracking tool on thyroideyes.com that enables you to enter your symptoms during the day and being able to keep track over time how you're progressing and how you're feeling. So Rick, it's been wonderful to have you here and to have you share some of the tips and life hacks that you use, and also to help me in going through some of the wonderful suggestions we've received from other patients. So thank you.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Now I want to talk about something that's very real for many of us living with thyroid eye disease, and that's working from home. While working from home can be challenging for anyone, it is particularly troublesome for those of us with thyroid eye disease because there's so many obstacles to overcome. I know I'm not the only one who struggles staring at a computer all day. It's difficult enough working from your office, but working from home, it's become even more apparent with all of this video conferencing that we have to do nowadays. It can be difficult to get a break and get away from the computer screen. However, I have learned some tips and tricks that may be helpful to all of you. Whenever possible, I also take photographs with my camera of the video screen during the conference. That way I can see some of the more complicated slides later. I can see the faces and names of all the people who were on the screen. And also, I'll take photos of the chat window that can sometimes appear on the side of the screen. Block off time on your calendar for short breaks. Even 10 minutes can make a difference. I go for a walk, or sometimes just lie down on the couch and close my eyes. Even that little break can help you take your eyes away from a screen. One thing that's been very helpful to me is that my physician wrote me a prescription that I could provide to my employer so that if I needed special lighting or needed to work from home a particular day, it was approved to do so. Finally, be honest. If you just cannot stand another conference call in a day, your coworkers and bosses most likely will understand. Maybe you can offer to dial into the call. Speak up for what you need. While I can't change the fact that so many of us have to work from home these days, hopefully these tweaks and tips will make it easier for you to work at home without being so taxing on your eyes. And hopefully all of these good habits will stick with you and maybe even stick with you when you go back to the office. For our final segment today, we'd like to have a conversation with Kimberly Doris, the Executive Director of the Graves' Disease and Thyroid Foundation, to speak a bit about the organization and the resources that it has available for people with thyroid eye disease. It's good to see you, Kimberly.
You too, Bea.
First, talk to us about the foundation itself and what you do.
The Graves' Disease and Thyroid Foundation was founded by Dr. Nancy Patterson over 3 decades ago. So she was diagnosed with Graves' disease and later with thyroid eye disease. And of course, this was back in the days where there was no internet, no email, no Facebook, no online support. And so she literally built the organization out of her living room, sending snail mail letters back and forth to people. And we've been through a couple of name changes, but we're still here today, and the mission is still the same, which is to provide the patient community with support and also credible evidence-based information.
That's actually very important, that topic of evidence-based information. We all know how much misinformation and disinformation there is. Can you give me some examples of how that works, of what you actually have?
In terms of how we judge information, the information that we're sharing with our patients is coming from medical organizations. And then in terms of our delivery of that information, we have a website at gdatf.org that has a number of free patient bulletins on there. We have a YouTube channel, and our screen name is Graves and Thyroid. That's all squished together. And we've got dozens of videos on that site. And most of that is actually recordings of experts in their respective fields. So we've got endocrinologists, we've got ophthalmologists, we've got oculoplastic surgeons, we've got endocrine surgeons. So that's a site where you can you can go and you know that all of the information that you're getting is credible. We also have a site at onegravesvoice.com that's a collaboration between the GDATF, Horizon Therapeutics, and Rare Life Solutions.
Now, in terms of consumer materials or consumer resources that they can actually that people like myself can readily share with others, what do you provide?
The best source for that would be our patient bulletins that we have on our website. People can also subscribe to our monthly e-newsletter that keeps people abreast of our activities, also the latest research that might be of interest. We do have that the YouTube channel. And in the pre-COVID world, we did patient education events around the country where we would bring together, the experts we were talking about, the endocrinologists, ophthalmologists, oculoplastic surgeons, endocrine surgeons. And, obviously in this world, we're unfortunately not able to do that right now. So we've transitioned to doing some webinars to kind of help fill that patient education void.
Can you talk a bit about what the foundation does in terms of putting together these support groups, and where can I find one if I wanted to attend one?
So these in-person support groups were really the core of the foundation. When Nancy founded the organization, there were support groups all over the country. In recent years, and even before pre-COVID, a lot of people were moving online for that support. So we do have an online forum attached to our website. We have the One Graves Voice site. We have a group on Facebook, and so that's an opportunity, but there's really no substitute for having that in-person connection with somebody that absolutely understands what you're going through. So we're hoping to bring those back, once we're in a post-COVID world where it's safe for our, community members to gather again. But we're also, in the meantime, we've just started piloting some Zoom support groups.
Kimberly, thank you so much for giving us your time. This has been so informative. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you all for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this episode of TED Today. Make sure you tune in tomorrow as we shift to the caregiver's perspective. We're excited to dedicate an episode to those caring for loved ones living with thyroid eye disease. See you tomorrow.